Hello students. So welcome to the first lecture of arrays, a new and very interesting topic. So today we start a new chapter, that's arrays. So let's understand the concept of arrays first. Now, if I ask you that, if I ask you to store the details of n employees of an organization, like their names, their salary, their employee code, and some more of such details. Right. Now, if I ask you to input those details and do some kind of statistics with it, then how will you do that? Yeah, just think of that, how you will be able to, access the details of an employee which you store in variables and do some kind of statistics like knowing how many employees get salary more than 5 lakhs or less than 1 lakh, or do some kind of statistics on the data. Yeah, so right now, yes, you can access, you can store the details. You can use a for loop, accept all the details. But as your for loop, the next iteration happens, the values stored in those variables will get lost, right? You can input the details, do whatever you want with them, display it, but as your for loop next iteration starts, you will lose the values stored in those variables. The memory locations will get replaced by the other new set of values as your loop iteration goes on. Yes, but with the help of array concept, you can access any element at any point of time. You just have to create 4 arrays for storing, say, employee code, employee name, employee salary, employee address, and using those 4 array variables, you can store all the values in them and access these values as per the requirement. Okay, so array makes it very simple to store data of similar data type, right? So let's go ahead with this concept. So in this lecture 1, we will, at the end of lecture, you will be able to understand all these things written over here: the array definition, the difference between subscript or the index and the subscripted variable, how we refer array elements, what do you understand by elements in an array, memory allocation of an array, how the elements are stored in the array, how do you declare an array, how do we initialize the array elements, what is length property, the difference between a normal variable and an array variable, with some exercise. Okay, so let's start the array part. Yes. So, as the definition goes, an array is defined as set of similar elements which you can store in an array. The, the only condition is the elements which you store in array will be of same data types. All the elements you store in an array will be of same data type. Hence, they are also called homogeneous elements of same data type can be stored in an array. Okay, so here also you have one definition. An array is an object which contains finite number of values of the same data type that can be referred by a common name. So, when you store the elements into the array, see, generally your normal variable, how do you you declare your normal variable like this. The array variable we declare like this. So this is the difference between a normal variable which can store one value at a time, whereas an array variable can store multiple values at a time. On all those values will be of same data type. So the difference between a normal variable and an array variable comes with the square bracket after the variable name. So this implies that this is not a normal variable but an array variable which is used for storing the multiple values of same data type. Okay, now the way you initialize the elements. Now, for example, yeah, see, once you declare the variable, this is the declaration. Now, how do you initialize a normal variable? You initialize it like this, right? You declare it and initialize it. Same way, you can declare an array variable and initialize the elements into the array using 10, 20, 30. Like this, you can store as many values you want, which has to be enclosed within the flower bracket separated by comma. Okay. So here, normally a normal variable is initialized like this. An array variable will be initialized with values within flower bracket separated by comma. Now, since this is an integer array, you can create an array of any data type. Now, this is an example of an integer array as it contains integer elements. Okay. Now, let's understand how these values are stored internally in the memory location. Okay. Now, if you declare and create an array like this, up till 100 suppose. Okay, so it will look something like this. Internally, the array elements are stored in contiguous memory location. So in the memory, it will reserve those memory location. Here you are initializing 10 elements starting from 10 to 100. So there are 10 integers. Therefore, 10 one integer requires 4 bytes. So 10 integers require 40 bytes. So for 40 bytes of memory will be allocated and the elements in the memory will be 10, 20, 30 like this. So this 10, 20, 30 are nothing but array elements or values, right? And here also you have the concept of index, like how we had in strings. The first element's index starts with 0 and it goes on till a dot length minus 1. Here there is something called length property, which gives you number of elements stored in an array, and you can use it with array name dot length. So here, since the array name is a dot length gives you number of elements or number of values stored in an array. So in this case, a dot length is 10, right? Now, the index of the last element of any array in terms of its length will be a dot length minus 1, right? Even in strings, we have used the same, but there we use length function. There was a length function which was giving you number of characters in a given string S. Here we are using length property. So make sure while using length with arrays, we use it like this without the parenthesis. The parenthesis signifies that that's the method which is used in string. Here, this is length property without parenthesis. So in arrays, we use length property to get number of elements stored in an array. So using length, you can find the index of last element a dot length minus 1. So for any array, you know the index of first element and you also know the index of last element with the help of its array name and the length property. Right. Now, you can access any element of the array using the array name followed by the index number. For example, A of 0. A of 0 refers to the first element stored in the array. Same way, A of 1 is the second element. A of 2 is the third element. Like that, you can refer any element stored in an array. Okay. So this is called the subscripted variable. The array name is also known as subscripted variable, and this index is also known as subscript. Index, the plural of that is indices, or subscript. That is nothing but the index which starts with 0 to L minus 1. And subscripted variable refers to the name of the array which we have used for storing our array elements. And elements refers to the elements stored in the values stored in the array. And you can refer any element using the array name, the subscripted variable, followed by the index within square bracket. So if I say SOP A of 0, it will print it will print 10, right? A of 0, if I write, then the output it will print will be 10, right? So this is how it will be stored internally. So once you understand this concept, then we can go further with respect to its declaration and initialization. Yeah, so let's check once again what all we have discussed. The array declaration, the syntax for array declaration is, first see the example, the data. Here we write int, the array name followed by square bracket. Now you just convert it into general format or the syntax. What is this int? Int is nothing but the data type. A is the array name followed by square bracket. So this is the syntax for declaring any array variable. Okay. In some books, they also use this format. So just you should know that, but it's better to follow one of them. I generally prefer using first type. But if you see these in some books, it's also a way of declaring variable. So just remember both the ways of declaring a array variable. So you can declare a variable, an array variable of any data type using the general format as given here. The data type, array name followed by square bracket. This is the declaration part for an array. Now the initializing an array while declaring. Like when we initialize a normal variable while declaring like this, same way we can initialize array while declaring this manner. So here we are initializing the array A with 5 elements, that is 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. So the elements must be separated by comma and they all must be enclosed within the flower bracket like this with a semicolon at the end. And the third one, length property, which I discussed, it defines the number of elements of an array. Basically, it gives you the array size. Okay, so here if we write SOP A dot length, it will give 5 for the array A, as it contains 5 elements, 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Okay. Yeah. So now, with whatever knowledge, whatever we have discussed, you can do this exercise. I will give you a few minutes to go through this and note down the answers, whatever answers you get for the following questions. And after 2 minutes, we will discuss the answer. You can cross-check whether you were right or not, thus clarifying whatever doubts you have with respect to exercise 1. Yeah, your time starts now. Just analyze the given array and answer the following questions. So here there is a string array S containing some elements. Here we are initializing the array while declaring. So here it is direct initialization. And here you can see there are 5 bits of questions. Just try to get answers for them and note it down in your notebook or some rough book wherever possible. Yeah, so I think you all must have done it. So let's discuss the answers. Yeah, the first bit is what is the index or the subscript of the first element of the array. Now here, this is your first element. These are all strings as they are stored in a string array. So the index of the first element of the array is 0. Not only for this, but for any array, the first subscript or first index will be always 0. Okay. Most of you must have got it right. Now coming to the second bit, what is the subscript of the last array element? Here, since you can directly give the array index this way, the subscript of last array element here is 5. Okay. And if you want to write it in terms of length, you can even write it as s dot length minus 1. Right? Both are same. Now coming to the third bit, what is the expression? Write the expression to refer the element cricket. Now, how do you refer the second element of the array S? You can refer any element using the array name followed by the subscript or the index. Now, the index for element cricket is 1. So, the expression is S of 1. Right? S of 1 will refer to the element cricket of the array S. Now, the fourth bit here, write the expression to get the total number of elements of the array. Here, the total number of elements are 5, are 6. But here you're asked to write the expression to get the total number of elements. They're not asking you what is the total number of elements. They're asking you to write the expression. So you're supposed to write it in terms of its length. S dot length will be the Java expression for getting total number of elements of the array. Last but not the least, write the expression to refer last element of any array in terms of its length. Yeah, most of you must have written as L minus 1. But here, the question is to refer last element, not the last index. Okay? To refer last element, it will see what is the last element? It is nothing but s of 5. But you are asked to refer it in terms of its length. So what is the index of last element in terms of its length? It is s dot length minus 1. So if you check, s dot length is 6 minus 1 is 5. So it is coming to the same value. But as per the question, this is the exact answer for that. So you have to write it this way. Okay. So do not use any other brackets. Whenever you refer any array element, you have to always use a square bracket like this. Okay. So this was a simple exercise to understand the basic concept of an array, how the elements are stored, how they are provided the subscript using which we can refer any element of the array. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. In the next session, we will see how we can input elements into the array through scanner object. Fine. So today it was directly initializing the array while declaring, the first way of accepting data. Next class, we will see how to input elements into the array through scanner object, and some more concepts of array will be done in next class. Okay. Okay, children, thank you for today.